Hello, this is the 2/28/2018 live broadcast or live stream of Labor Justice 1. I just want to say that we have spoken a little bit this week or in the past week about some other issues, and I want to make sure that we do a review of those. I also want to start off by saying, as usual, if you're being harassed and discriminated in the workplace, our hearts go out to you. I just want you to know that you're not alone. We stand with you and we fight with you and fight for you, not against you. Yesterday, I just want to start off by saying yesterday was a very, very eventful day. We had a lot of protesters. There were a lot of people out on the streets. We got a lot of support. And I also want to say that it was interesting to see the reactions of people coming out of Sass and also just people, driving through Cary. It was almost like they had never seen us before. Like this was the first time. Like, driving by like it was the crazy, like, what is going on over there? Well, I'll tell you what's going on at Sas Institute. 12 years ago, I was harassed and discriminated against by a manager because I am HIV positive. I found out that I was HIV positive on Sas campus at their medical facility. My HIPAA privacy policy had been violated. My HIPAA privacy policy was violated, and I know this because shortly after finding out my HIV status, my manager told me that I couldn't use certain amenities on campus. It was a big tip-off. Of course, the abuse and harassment was just ramped up. This harasser had always mistreated me from really day one. And I think it's because, it was because I was gay, that frankly. And unfortunately, in North Carolina, that isn't against the law. So your sexual orientation is not protected. Is not federally protected, but some states offer some type of protection. But in North Carolina, you can be discriminated against because you're gay all day long at work. You can be fired for it, and that's not illegal. So my manager had a heyday. He had a lot of fun torturing and harassing me for a number of years. But when he found out that I was HIV positive, both him and Human Resources ramped it up. I guess they didn't want that HIV positive man on campus. And I guess they wanted to side with the manager because it was easier and it protected the company. The company was just, they said, he's not a very high performer. Now, they had received a letter, and I had been in contact with Human Resources for quite some time about this manager. And I had been telling him over and over and over again to stop. Please don't torture me anymore. And finally, when it was too much, I went to Human Resources and I said, this guy won't let up. He's harassing and retaliating against me. He's torturing me. And their response was to put me in one-on-one meetings with him to work it out. Now, as someone with HIV, stress negatively affects your disability, or can. So they could have very well shortened my life. I want everyone to understand that. They could have very well shortened my life by allowing that manager to have free reign over his retaliation and harassment against me. And Human Resources retaliated against me in conjunction with him. It was like a team effort. Let's push this HIV positive man out of Sas Institute campus. But see, what they didn't realize was that I needed my medicine. and how hard I would actually try to stay there to keep that medicine coming. Because HIV medicine runs about $3,000 to $6,000 a month. And it really depends on your regimen, okay? It can even go higher than that. And so, yeah, I was doing everything I could to try to keep my job. And they were doing everything they could to push me out. And it was almost like some type of sick game that my manager and upper management started to play. And it was torture. And because of that experience, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now as much for you as for me. Because I can guarantee you that most of the people that are watching and most of the people that will watch this, they will experience some type of discrimination in their life and harassment in their life. And even though you might be a young white man or a young white woman, you're going to get old one day. And age discrimination is a real thing to be concerned about. So even though you might not feel like you have anything to worry about right now, believe me when I say that this HIV positive man is doing what he's doing to help you, whether you see it or not. Because one day you may very well thank me for trying to stand up and make a difference. Now, that's a little bit about my past. Now, why I'm back? I'm back because other people have reached out to me and they have said that they've been discriminated and harassed against at Sas Institute. Now, that was like a trigger for me because, I had plans. In fact, there's like a letter here. I have a little letter. This was my first letter to John Boswell. Now, I haven't read this before or posted this, but I'll post it. It basically was one of these individuals, Shantae, I can call her Shantae. Shantae came to me, and she called me and reached out to me and was crying on the phone and telling me everything that happened in it, and it was like the switch went off. See, after my parents died, I stopped protesting originally after 80 days because it was finally enough, I kind of wanted to break. But I told SAS leaders, I told John Boswell. See, John Boswell came out on the street. I don't know if you know who John Boswell is. John Boswell is a head SAS attorney. And after about 40 days, he managed to come out on the street. I don't know if it certainly wasn't serious because they had my phone number. They could have easily contacted me or sent me a nice little letter saying that they wanted to find out what I knew. But they staged some type of event where he came out there and showed his presence. I guess maybe they wanted to have SAS Institute employees think that they had done something or that they were about to do something good for me. So he came out there in a nice little suit and some sunglasses and asked me what I wanted. And I want to stress this. I asked for a lot. Now, the reason why I asked for a lot of people will say, oh, well, he's just being greedy. No, it has nothing to do with that. I am not poor. I am not living paycheck to paycheck. I asked for a lot of money for this very simple reason. I wanted to make sure that SAS was punished appropriately for what they had done. If it had been a little settlement, like let's say $50,000, just to sort of get you away. How would that have helped anybody? It wouldn't have helped me, and it certainly wouldn't have helped anyone at Sas Institute, because no change would have been necessary. Just a little bit of, like a quarter, giving a quarter, a homeless man a quarter on the street, passing by. There, I've done my good deed. It would have changed nothing. So yeah, I asked for a lot and I still expect a lot. Because it needs to be enough to send a clear message to Sas Institute that this type of behavior will no longer be tolerated. And so I left. After 80 days, I didn't protest anymore. My father had died. There was no reason. I had things I had to do. I had an estate to settle and a life to try to rebuild. But I told John Boswell that I would be back. Now, I had expected, and I'm going to read this letter. Here it is right here. So let me just go ahead and read this letter. It kind of explains where we are right now. Dear John Boswell, it is shameful that SAS still retaliates against people who are harassed. I have been silent all these years after I left my protest to be at my father's deathbed. See, I had an FMLA that was supposed to protect me from being a layoff, but SAS kind of ignored that. Interestingly enough. So if you have FMLA, don't think that's going to save you from the terrible things SAS can do to you, because it won't. However, I made a promise to SAS that I would return and finish my protest against harassment and discrimination. My original plan was to wait until I possibly reached the final stages of AIDS to return, thereby making the most of my life while giving my final days purpose. But luckily, I am still as healthy as most people. So that was it. When I left that protest 12 years ago, my intent was to just wait, just to live my life and live a fulfilled life and be completely happy. And then when I finally got sick, I'd come back and I'd stand on that street corner and die of AIDS in front of those people so that they could see what harassment and discrimination can do and how it can shorten someone's life. I wasn't just going to, I'm sorry, but you're not going to hurt me that deeply without me standing up and wanting to fight back. And I'm not going to waste my whole life doing it either. So I had a plan. But then this person reached out to me and said, I need help. SAS is harassing and retaliating against me. Shantae did. That was one, but there are others that we're in contact with now. And instantly, it was like a switch. It was like, I got to do this. I got to stand out and say something. I got to be vocal. I can't be silent. This has to stop. Because despite what a lot of SAS people think, a lot of SAS, okay, I have friends at SAS, I haven't talked to them in a long time. But there are good people at SAS. Not all of them are good. But there are good people at SAS, and there are some people there that I have that I would be friendly to if I saw them on the street, and they're nice, and there's one person in particular that I think is one of the best men that I've ever worked with in my entire life. So I have a lot of respect for good people on SAS campus. But if you're a harasser, and if you've retaliated against someone, I'm going to say something. And I know, and I know you're not good. And I'm not going to be quiet. And so that's where we are today. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about harassment and discrimination and retaliation in the past. I want to make sure that everybody understands what retaliation is. Retaliation is when, and there's the legal definition, but I'm going to give you what it really is. Retaliation is when you have gone to human resources and you've notified your company that there's wrongdoing, whether harassment, discrimination, or what. And then they, in turn, retaliate against you, torture you, abuse you, whatever it takes to get you to go. Retaliation is like a punishment for speaking about wrongdoing at a company. Okay? Now you can look up the legal definition, but that's it right there. So I want everyone to be aware when I speak of retaliation exactly what I'm talking about. Retaliation is when I went to when I went to HR, Jen Mann, right? Jen Mann. Yes, Jen Mann. Chief Human Resources Officer at Sas Institute. When I went to your human resources, I was retaliated against. And it was actually encouraged. I mean, how can you not say that that wasn't retaliation when I am being tortured by a man and being harassed and discriminated against, and I say, I'm having trouble working with this guy. Can you please move me to another department? I can't be around him. I cannot do my job. He's stressing me out. I'm HIV positive. I can't take this stress. And their response is to sit me down and make me have one-on-one meetings with that man. Does that make any sense? No. If I had complained of, let's put this in perspective. If I had complained of sexual harassment, would they be putting me in a closed room with him? No. So, if you're being harassed and discriminated against, I want you to do this. Is it a good idea to go to human resources first? I'm testing you if you've watched this before. Is that a good idea? If you're being harassed and discriminated against, do you think you should go to human resources first? No. No. No, no, no. Okay, and I want to explain to you why that is. So everybody understands this. Because human resources, they'll say, if you have a problem with discrimination and harassment, please come and see us and we'll help you. That's what they'll say. But no, they won't. Because they're out for the company. They're there to help the company. They're there to keep the company from being liable. And so what they'll do is give you a great, this is a scenario. You are being harassed because of your age, right? And I'm just spitballing here. But you're being harassed because of your age. You go to human resources and you say, I'm being harassed and discriminated against because I'm getting close to retirement and my manager is younger than me and treating me differently. He's not giving me the same jobs he's giving other people. He's not giving me a chance like he's giving other people, and he makes jokes about my age. And spreads jokes to other people about my age. This is an example now. Human resources will most likely say, they'll be, oh yeah, okay, let's take this down. Who was this that you saw? Okay, when did this happen? Were there any witnesses? Who was involved with this? Tell me your story again. And they write down everything that you're saying. They might have 1 or 2 meetings. They might have 3 or 4 meetings, but they're going to be writing down everything you say. And then they're going to do their little investigation, And then they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, it's not about your age. He's just a young man and he's spirited. And it's not about your age at all. So they'll confuse the hell out of you. So no, I don't think you should go to human resources at the first sign of harassment, discrimination. What you should do is get a lawyer. And when you get that lawyer, your lawyer is going to help you through pretty much everything else that I've told you in videos and everything else that you've seen. But what a lawyer will be able to tell you first if you're being harassed and discriminated against. All right? So you don't need to run off to human resources and say, I'm being harassed and discriminated against until you know for sure. A lawyer will be able to tell you. And it doesn't have to go to human resources. The next thing you want to do, the next thing that a lawyer will do is he'll listen to what you have to say, and then he's going to send you to the fabulous and wonderful world of the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Oh, now that's a good place to go. I have a lot to say about the EEOC. I really do. The EEOC, especially when it comes to these corporations, especially when it comes to SAS. I'd be kind of curious to see how many, I'd just be kind of curious to see how many times they've actually gone up against SAS based off of how many complaints that they've gotten from SAS employees. I wonder what that ratio is. Probably 0. Probably 0. I don't know. Okay? I'm not going to claim to know something that I don't. But they don't seem to be too enthusiastic to go up against SAS. They seem pretty lazy to start off with. And if you go into their offices, I'm not the only one who'll tell you that it seems like a very biased organization. Okay? They're not going to bend over backwards to help you. I mean, it's basically like, hello, here's some forms to fill out. In 2 or 3 months, you might hear back from us. But wait until we finish our investigation. That's about how excited they are. All right? And God only knows what kind of investigation that they do. It's kind of it really is like a mystery. It's like you call and they say, we're still doing our investigation. And you call again and we're still doing our investigation. And then at the end of several months, they most likely will send you a right to sue letter. And that right to sue letter basically means, okay, you have permission, we kind of think that you can file a lawsuit on your own. That's what a right to sue letter is. Now it's the reason why the lawyer sends you there is because I've said this before, it's like spinning the wheel of fortune. It's like maybe 1 out of the 100 times that someone goes to the EEOC, they might get help. They only take like 1 or 2% of the cases that are brought to them. So you're probably going to get a right to sue letter. But if they do stand up for you, congratulations, because you've just won the lottery. Okay? You've just won the jackpot. I don't know why the EEOC is allowed to be the way it is. I guess it's probably because it's very inefficient, and that seems to be perfect for the large corporations in this country, for them to not be efficient. I can only imagine. I mean, really, the North Carolina EEOC is full of the most lazy and biased and inept people that you will ever come across. Their investigation is probably a phone call and a note in a file. But you never see that file. It's a big mystery. So, yeah, that's what I think about the EEOC. Now, we also covered the different types of harassment and discrimination, and I just want to say that whoa, before I go any further, there is one video that I have made as probably the most important video. It's just an animated PowerPoint. It still looks decent, but it's just an animated PowerPoint with voiceover. It's called Have You Been Harassed at SAS? And I really encourage everybody to watch this video, because if you are being discriminated and harassed against and retaliated against, you will be confused. That's common. You don't know what to do. You might be watching this or whatever, and then something terrible happens to you at work, and you fly off and do the wrong thing. Watch that video. Have you been harassed at SAS? Follow those steps. It's like a white video with black text. It's on Labor Justice 1. I highly encourage you to watch it. The whole thing is one of the most important videos that I've ever created, because it's totally designed to be helpful for someone harassed and discriminated against and retaliated against. We also talked about the different types of harassment and discrimination. We talked about age discrimination. We talked about disability discrimination. We talked about equal pay and compensation discrimination. We talked about national origin discrimination. We talked about pregnancy discrimination. We talked about race-based discrimination. We talked about sex-based discrimination. We talked about sexual harassment. Those are the different types of discrimination and harassment that are against the law. Okay? Now, an attorney will be able to tell you what to do from step one. So go to an attorney first. Then after the EEOC, the next thing the attorney is going to do is they're going to say, okay, we're probably going to have to send a letter to your human resources. Now they can send a letter, they can call, you can do it through email. I don't really know the official way that it should be done, but in my case, it was through a letter. And there were big mistakes in that letter. I think that my lawyer was pretty knowledgeable, but she really kind of failed me in the end. Because one of the biggest mistakes that she made to me was making that letter in legal terms and making that letter look as though it had been sent by a professional attorney. That was a mistake. Because once the human resources finds out that you have an attorney, their whole act will be different. It's like before they've been like, we have free reign. We can do whatever they want to. We can do whatever we want to. And now once you show them that you have an attorney, then everything is, okay, we got to make sure that we do this now. We got to make sure we do this. This has to be right. So it kind of clams up. People stop talking. They start interacting with you in a different way. And so I'm telling you, when you notify human resource, when your attorney is getting ready to notify your human resources at Sas Institute, do not tell your attorney that company, Sas Institute, has a history of retaliating against people. I'm part of that history, and if he needs to reach out to me, he's more than welcome to reach out to me and ask me for details. But you need to tell him that your company has a history of retaliating against people, and you need to then make sure that that letter is not sent looking like it came from an attorney. And the reason why is you want human resources to show their true colors. That's all. You're not being deceptive. You just want human resources to show their true nature. And if they don't think that if they think that you don't have an attorney, they're more likely to not comply with the law. Okay? Let's all keep in mind that harassment and discrimination is illegal. And retaliation is illegal. It's not just morally wrong. It's not just hurtful and damaging and creates long-lasting trauma for people. It's actually against the law. These people, in my opinion, for me, broke the law on several levels. And with Shantae, a lot of, again, I have to sort of do, like a brief background on her so you know who I'm talking about. She's someone who reached out to me. She was a hairstylist at Sas Institute for 15 years. She cut the hair of the upper management at Sas for 15 years. She worked on Sas campus for 15 years. Yet now, the EEOC has basically received Sas's defense letter, which basically says, no, she was a contractor. She was not an employee at Sas. So we're not responsible. Sorry. Yeah. That's pathetic. She had a full-time color badge. She received a paycheck from Sas. She was contracted She had a manager who harassed her. The whole reason why she went to human resources was to get some help. It wasn't to have a little chit chat like what they're trying to say. They're actually trying to say, oh, well, she didn't notify us for this amount of time. Well, I guess she went into SAS just to talk about the day. No, she went into SAS because she was being harassed by her manager. Her manager was making names about her breasts. Her manager was nicknaming her breasts and then going around and making comments to her peers about her breasts. Now, she's a beautiful woman and she's well endowed. Okay? And when it started to bother her so much that she had a breast reduction. Do you understand? She changed her body because of the harassment and retaliation and abuse that she was receiving. She changed her body for that. And you know what her manager told her when she came back with her reduced breasts? He said, oh, well, now you're going to lose half your business. I still cannot believe that. But that man is still employed at SAS. That upstanding individual, that wonderful man who treats women with such respect, is still employed at SAS. While guess what? The person who went to human resources got fired. Yep. The person was being harassed and discriminated so much that they changed their body. They had their breasts reduced. They changed their body. And it was bothering her so much that she went to human resources and asked for help. Not only are they saying, oh, well, she wasn't an employee, so we're not responsible. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's just the funniest thing that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But watch out, contractors. There are plenty of contractors at SAS. I'd watch out. What they're basically saying is they could be saying that any contractor at SAS is not going to be protected. SAS is not going to help you. And there's a lot of contractors at SAS. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of people who are just praying and hoping that they'll get their insurance, their SAS insurance, if they just work a little harder. I've worked at large corporations, larger than Sas Institute, okay? And I will say this, they can work those contractors to death on the hopes that they might get full benefits. Now, all the while that this has been going on, we have a billionaire at SAS sitting back, playing golf, or going around on his yacht. I don't know. Who knows? Well, I have some ideas. Actually, I do have some ideas. We're going to talk about what I think Jim Goodnight does on different occasions. That's when we play the name game. I'm looking forward to the name game. Again, where's this phone? You might want to pick up this phone and maybe you could give me a call. I don't know. Jim, Oliver Schabenberger, Jim Goodnight, John Saul, John Boswell, Oliver Schabenberger, Jim Goodnight, John Saul, John Boswell, Gin Man. Do you know that when your company discriminated and harassed against me years ago, that you were breaking the law? Do you realize that was against the law, what you did? Do you realize Oliver Schabenberger, Jim Goodnight, John Saul, John Boswell, Gin Man? Do you realize, are you even, maybe, hopefully, are you starting to realize the amount of torture and abuse that I went through? Is it at all sinking in? Are you understanding that you have broken the law to the wrong person? Because I'm not going to let you get away with it. I will not let you get away with what you did to me. And I will not let you get away with what you've done to Shantae. Now, I have some things to say about some sass leaders. Sad. You know, this is the commentary part of this, okay? This is the part. Well, let's just play the name game. Let's just go ahead and play the name game. I think everybody wants to hear this. I think if there's anyone watching now, they're more interested in the name game. Because what is that? What is the name game? Well, you tell me. I'm going to give you some names. And you tell me who these people are. You know what? I'm going to put it in a text so everybody can absorb it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it in a text. It's just going to be some names. I've got some names, and they're all kind of jumbled up in order. And what I want you to do is I want you to figure out how these names relate. In the text after this live chat, I'm going to put it in the Facebook. I'm going to put it, it's going to be associated with this. It's going to be a comment in there. It's going to be the name game. And it's going to be about 5 or 6 names. They're going to be jumbled up. And you tell me how they relate, if they relate at all. Do they relate? I guess the name is, I guess the objective of the game is, how do these names relate? One of them's Jim. One of them's Jim. One of them's Sterlina. There's several others we're going to put on there. Put on that list. Now, about some other little things. Let's talk about the homeless people. Talk about the homeless people that's right outside of Sass. You know, 12 years ago, I did notice that there were a bunch of homeless people that were coming from that intersection of 40 and Harrison. They'd panhandle for some money. And they lived probably in the woods over in the park. Well, it always struck me as strange that here you have a man that's worth $8 billion and you have all these top-level executives going through Sass, and you have these rich people going into the Umstead and whatever. And they see these homeless people there every day. What do you think they think? They have so much money that they could help them all and it wouldn't even faze them. It'd be like me handing out a quarter. They can't even do that. They let those homeless people sit there and they don't help them. And to me, that is just so morally wrong. I heard that once the Umstead was finished, that some Sass leaders didn't want them showing up around the Umstead because that was just not right. Well, that's America. And that's what the 1% has done to us. Instead of calling the Cary police to move the homeless people out of your way and out of your visibility, it would have been just as easy and much better for everybody had you helped them. Just a little commentary. Oh, and another thing. Your lawn maintenance crew. They only make about $20,000 to $25,000 a year. That doesn't seem very fair to me, Jim. Oliver Schabenberger, Jim Goodnight, John Saul, John Boswell. I think you could give them a little bit of a raise, don't you think? Hell, standing out there in the sun all day, making your lawn look pretty. I think you could do a little bit more than $20,000 to $25,000 a year. That's pretty sad. It's pretty bad. Really, it is. I mean, really. You can't help the homeless people, and you pay your lawn workers. I don't even know what that is. That's, terribly low to me to stand out there in that heat all day, especially in the summer, and make your lawns look pretty, and you can't afford to give them more than $25,000 a year. Shame on you. Really. Shameful. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, yeah, people with blinders. Okay? I noticed that. I've noticed that for years. Maybe I was a little bit like that, I don't know. But when you have a situation where you have people standing out in front of Sas Institute, and they're clearly visible, it always amazes me when I see this. Oh gosh, they're going to say something to me. Oh gosh, there's someone who's not happy. There's your common man right there. Stop kowtowing. Stop bowing to the 1%. Look at yourself. I'm more like you than you are like them. Start recognizing that. I'm there for you. Believe it or not. They'll survive. Okay? They'll make it through this. I guarantee you. They will be okay. But stop thinking that I'm your adversary. Actually, I have a lot of people. I get a lot of support from SAS. From a lot of SAS individuals. They don't like to publicly show it because they could get in trouble for that. Supporting the HIV positive man who's trying to better himself and better the other people that's been harassed and discriminated against, and instill positive change within Sas Institute to make sure that harassment and discrimination, retaliation doesn't occur anymore. There's a lot of support. I get a lot of support on the street. But occasionally you get that one drive-through that says something pretty nasty. And years ago, I used to do this. Years ago when someone would say, "Get the hell out of the street," I go, thank you for your support. And they'd go away. Oh, I didn't give him support. I was telling him to go to hell. But no one else saw that, So, but now, sometimes I may do that, sometimes I may not. I'm not completely daft. I can respond to an insult. But I do like to take the high road. I really do. Me being here doing this, you have no idea what kind of restraint that I'm showing. Okay? You have no idea what I know that I haven't said. No idea. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't have to say all these things. I mean, it amazes me. It really amazes me. Now, I do blame the common man. People assume that I'm a diehard liberal, or they assume I'm a Democrat. But I'm not. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm not an independent. Well, I guess I'd be independent. But I make up my mind based off of what I see. And what I see right now in this country, and what I see right now with large corporations, scares the hell out of me. Think about net neutrality. I hope people are thinking about what that's going to mean. Talk about our freedoms of speech going away. But we hand it over. It's like, okay, he's rich. Okay, he says this is a large corporation. And before you know it, we're going to be like serfs. Do you know what a serf is? It's basically someone who's a slave, who works for a lord or a knight. Back in the Middle Ages. We're basically giving our freedoms away for these people, and I'm standing out there trying to instill some change. I'm trying to empower the common man. I don't want to let the rich 1% get away with harassment and discrimination in the workplace. I think that is reasonable. I don't think that is that extreme. But Lord have mercy, do you know how hard that is to try to get that to happen? To where you can have an equal and fair place to work where you're not discriminated and harassed against. That is a very difficult thing to do, especially in our time right now in our country, where you have a president who is certainly not, being equal in how he thinks. And I mean, do you think Jim Goodnight is very non-biased? I mean, I don't know, but do you think Jim Goodnight's very non-biased? Do you think he's biased or non-biased? My opinion is he's non-biased. I can look at the SAS leaders page, Google SAS leaders, and see if that seems like a very diverse group to you. The face of SAS. Does she seem very diverse to you? Here's a global corporation. Yet their leaders don't seem very, very diverse at all. Now, that's really about all I have to say tonight. Except for summing up, I'm not happy with the EEOC. I think that going to the EEOC would be it's kind of a waste of time, but you got to do it. Chance of winning the lottery. I think that best bet for you to do if you're being harassed and discriminated at Sas Institute or any large corporation is get an attorney and be quiet about it. Follow your attorney's advice, but beware of retaliation when you go to your human resources. Jen Man. Let's talk about you for just a second, actually. Jen Man, Chief Human Resources Officer. I don't know if you were the Chief Human Resources Officer or not when I was at Sas Institute. I don't know. But if your human resources behaves the way it did then God help you. Because there's going to be a special place in hell for you. That's all I have to say. I'll talk more about the EEOC, but don't forget that name game. I'm going to post it. It's going to be a comment with this video. And like I said, it's going to have some names on there. One of them's Jim and one of them's Sterlina, and there's probably about 4 or 5 other names. And what relationship, and I guess the game is what relationship do these names have with one another? All right? For everyone, I want to end this by saying, for everyone who's being harassed and discriminated against, I'm sorry. I'm not going to end this yet. One more thing. I didn't talk about Jim enough. Jim Goodnight, CEO and owner of SAS. I blame him. He's responsible for allowing this stuff to happen. Because surely he has to know that his human resources operates the way that it does. I think I've made that clear. And yet he doesn't do anything about it. I know that one other person who said that they were harassed and discriminated against talked to Jim Goodnight directly and told Jim Goodnight that his human resources was the way that it was. And he laughed it off. Of course he's laughing it off. Ha 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 ha. I'm in a good place, aren't I? I can do whatever I want. I'm a billionaire. So it is said, so it is done. Yeah. And then you have this whole thing about SAS leaders. See, now a lot of people probably have been very curious, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of SAS leaders out there going, please don't talk about me tonight. Well, you know, if you've done right and you haven't discriminated and harassed against someone, I won't be talking about you, okay? But if you've fornicated with someone on SAS campus, if you've harassed against someone on SAS campus, if you've broken policies on SAS campus, and you happen to be a manager or upper management, and if I find out about it, I'm going to be bringing it up. I promise you. I promise you. There's probably a lot of executives at SAS burning, shredding some paper right now and washing some DNA off their clothes. I mean, Jim came to my floor. I was new. I was a new employee. I hadn't been there. I was still a contractor. I didn't really know who Jim Goodnight was. But I saw this tall guy, come in from the stairs because it's, easy access. Going for that woman's office. And, people would say, oh, well, that's Jim Goodnight. Jim Goodnight. Ooh, he's here. And then I heard some stuff walking by that office one day. Didn't seem like it was very good, whatever was happening. And then a few months later, his own daughter, that tears me up, his own daughter told me about it. Told me about the relationship that he had with that woman. Told me about the sex that he had with that woman. And so he was doing that on SAS campus. SAS campus. Does everybody get that? There's a check that handbook. Let's look at that handbook a little bit better. I have a feeling that that's breaking some type of handbook rule. I think there's a policy at SAS that says that shouldn't occur. But see, it's the things like that I'm going to be bringing forward because it shows what kind of hostile work environment is allowed to happen at Sas Institute. If upper management and the SAS leader and CEO can fornicate in an office on the 4th floor, then I guess that means that other upper management can get away with a lot too. I mean, hell, why wasn't I able to fornicate in my office? And get away with it? Why can't we all do that? Because it's wrong. That's why. But if you're rich and you're famous and you have a lot, and you have that power, like I said, here's the SAS handbook. Here's the SAS handbook right here. If you're rich and you're powerful, you can do anything. Special clause. No. Jim Goodnight, you have to abide by the same laws as the rest of us. John Saul, John Boswell, Oliver Schaubenberger, you also, all of you, Gin Man, you all have to abide by the same laws that we do. Now, you might have the money and the power to skirt around some of it, but one day something's going to stick. And I hope to God that you can't wash it out. I'm going to be doing more of this. I'm going to be mentioning. I have some things to say about most of these individuals, actually, but I'm not going to do it tonight. We got to space this stuff out. I hope you all have a good evening. Yesterday was amazing. There was a lot of support and a lot of people out on that street, and it was great. Again, for all those being harassed in the workplace, this is for you. You are not alone. They may make you think corporations and large corporations who are trying to retaliate and discriminate and harass against you, they may make you feel like you're alone. They may make you feel like you have low self-esteem. They may traumatize you. They may abuse you. They may harass you and harass you and harass you. And you may try to seek help and you might not know how to do it, but I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you now with everything that I say and do. And I want you to know that. And for the future people who are going to be harassed and discriminated against, I'm doing this for you also. You may not even realize it. You may be one of those people that are coming out on that street. One of the few, actually. I have to say, I get a lot of support. But you might be one of those few that are coming out, who come out of Sass all pissed off. I'm still doing this for you. Because one day, you may be harassed and discriminated against. And you may say to yourself, I finally understand why that man is doing what he's doing. Now, good night. I truly wish you all the best. And we will talk more later.